Hey, welcome to the Learning to Lead podcast. I'm Paul Doherty, your host with Dr. Dharius Daniels back at Victory, and we're in the middle of our conference. Pastor Daniels is about to bring a powerful message, but we want to talk about leadership, catch up with you on your life, ministry, and this is just a podcast really to help people out there that want to grow in their leadership, want to grow in ministry. Tell everyone out there a little bit of who you are if they've never heard you, didn't get to hear last year's message.
Yeah.
So give them a quick snapshot of who is Dr. Dharius Daniels.
Well, first of all, I'm a dude that's glad to be here.
Come on, man. We're glad you're here.
Yeah, I'm
We're
glad to be here.
Back.
Honored to be here. And also I have major love and respect and admiration for you and your wife and what y'all are doing. And it's just good to come here and get to spend some time with y'all. We met a few years ago, and your genuineness, your authenticity, your humility, all of that was just so refreshing for me. And I like to be around people like that. So
Man.
I'm really glad to be here. And yeah, long story short is I'm born in a small town in Mississippi, born and raised, felt the call to ministry about my sophomore year in college, wrestled with whether or not I was going to do it full time. To my senior year in college, made the decision to do that, moved all the way from Mississippi to New Jersey to get prepared and trained with seminary. And my wife, Mississippi girl, same thing, left her career to do it. And it was rough for a minute because the year I moved, actually the day I moved the day after 9/11, September 11th.
Oh, wow.
I moved to New Jersey the day after that. So it was just crazy, and she
Yeah.
couldn't find a job, but God just proved himself faithful. And a year after I finished seminary, we planted a church. We felt like God was calling us to really treat the Northeast like a mission field, because in some sense, coming from Mississippi, it felt that way.
Yeah.
And that's what we did, and so we've been plugging away ever since. Initially, the church was called Kingdom Church several years ago. We changed the name to Change Church because that's kind of the essence, we feel like, of our call.
Yeah.
And it is kind of transformational
Yeah.
ministry.
Totally.
And so we've been plugging away at that and enjoying the journey, learning, failing, but trying to fail forward.
Come on.
Yep. And so we believe losses can become lessons if you look at them
Amen.
correctly. And so it's been a great and an enriching, fulfilling journey, and then we get to meet great people along the way, like yourself, and it's dope.
Man. Well, you shared things last year that really stood out to me that I think it would be great to open up here. And for those of you that watched this podcast last night, you didn't see this cut on my eye. This just happened today. So this I was playing hide and seek with my kids, and I was hiding behind a door with a coat rack that was eye level.
Oh.
Like a little thing sticking out of the door. And my son discovered I'm behind the door, and he pushes the door against me. He's 5 years old, so excited. And that coat rack just went and just cut right into my eye just today. So,
ouch.
Yeah, I've got to let it heal.
Yes.
But I want to talk
healed
to you
in
about
Jesus' name.
one of the things, talking of healing and talking about leadership, you introduced my wife and I to something last year that really impacted our lives. You mentioned in your sermon last year the heart healer, and how there was a heart doctor that really made an impact on your life. And afterwards, we were so intrigued, like, what are you talking about? So many people out there are focused on building a great church, building a big business, getting famous, getting viral, and they're not focusing on their hearts. And you really touched on the heart, and that when the heart's pure and it's healed and it's healthy, everything can grow from that and flourish. And that's something that not a lot of people talk about. Ashley and I went and saw that heart doctor, heart healer, had a huge impact on us. But share a little bit on that for leaders out there, and just even in your life, and for people out there that are wanting to grow in leadership and not considering the importance of the heart.
Yeah, I feel like for me, this conviction about heart healing grew out of my own experience. So number one, it grew out of my own experience personally, meaning I was a person who was living right in terms morally, but I wasn't living well, if that makes sense, right? So you can be living properly and not necessarily have peace. And so what I began to see is that very often people like myself who are in leadership are so focused on being the instruments of God's mission that we forget we're the objects of that mission.
Yeah.
That God doesn't just want to use me to transform others' life. He wants to transform mine.
Yeah.
And I begin to see, right, specifically for those of us who would consider ourselves continuationists or charismatic or whatever term a person would use, that we place so much emphasis on the gifts of the Spirit that we kind of miss the fruit of the Spirit. Mm-hmm. And the gifts, when I say miss, meaning we don't place that same kind of emphasis on the gifts, because on the fruit, because the gifts of the Spirit express what God is doing through you. The fruit of the Spirit shows what God's doing in you. Mm-hmm. And so I started seeing words like joy, peace, long suffering, gentleness, temperance. And I'm reading the scripture and I'm like, I don't have a lot of that. Mm-hmm. I've got full buildings and full itinerary, but I don't have that. And so for me, what I began to see was the missing component to that was the transformation of the soul. Yeah. Like the transformation of the soul leads to the transformation of the life. That's personally and professionally. In terms of my leadership, this is what I learned. You can have all of the training, read all of the books, know everything that you need to do. But if your heart is not whole and healthy, you won't have the gumption and the gall and the audacity to pull the trigger on certain decisions that you have to make. You can know people need to be moved, but be so afraid of rejection that you don't make the move. Or you can suffer from approval addiction like Moses, which affected his leadership. So I saw personally and professionally I needed to do something. And it has really become, I think, a really key and central part of my ministry. That is probably the most, I believe, one of the most important aspects of the ministry God's given us. And that is the transformation of a person's life through the transformation of their soul.
Come on, man. Something we say here at Victory is not just the name of our church. It's a life you can experience.
Come on.
And
that's good.
You know, Paul the Apostle, he said in 1 Corinthians 9, he said, I don't want to preach this message and then get to the end of my life and be guilty of not having experienced it for myself. Yeah. And so I think, when you shared it, there was something that just went off on Ashley and I, because it's the same way. Like, we're doing everything we know to do. We're doing everything right. Of course, we're works in progress, but we're not like blatantly messing up. But we just felt like our hearts were being, in many ways, there was just this tension with just being young and leading the church and the stress and the pressure of carrying this ministry in our hearts and seeing thousands of people come to Jesus and preaching and casting vision and millions of dollars coming in. And it was like everything here looked good, but everything in here was like, wow, we really need to just go and find out where is some of these hurts and these pressures and these tensions coming from, so that we can experience that full victory that God has for us. And so anyways, we went and spent some time with this heart healer, heart doctor that you mentioned, recommended, and so powerful. We brought our whole team. We brought our core team, because you said, don't just do it for you, and Ashley, do it for your team, because your core team spent time with her. Yeah. And other pastors we admire also did the same thing. And something that I think is interesting, especially in like charismatic and faith churches, is there's this fear to ask for counsel, and there's almost like this stigma. If you go get counseling, you have issues. Only married couples that are thinking about divorcing go see a counselor. And it's like, no, it's actually preemptive medicine. It's healthy, and healthy couples go see counselors, and healthy pastors go see a counselor, and healthy churches have heart healers and heart healing ministries. Talk a little bit about that, as you've spoken in a lot of different avenues, and we're seeing even on social media this cry for like leadership to have healing. Talk a little bit about just that landscape and how people out there can start with themselves.
I think one of the keys to it is expanding our understanding of what it actually means to be a leader. And that means that we should see our responsibility as more than carrying out activity, but we have a calling to be examples. I think like Paul distinguishes and he separates kingdom leadership from any other type of leadership when he tells the people at Corinth, follow me. So he's like, I'm teaching you, I'm explaining stuff to you, I'm casting vision about a different kind of life you can live. So I know you have information, but you're not really going to be able to implement this without an example. So I'm not Jesus, but I am a follower of him.
Yeah.
So follow me as I follow him so that you have an example.
Yeah.
And I feel like when leaders, when we understand that is also an important part of our leadership responsibility, that organically and automatically shifts the way we approach leadership development, and you get more than handles practically. You recognize I need to get healing for my heart. And so for me, it's real corny, but for me, this is a question I ask myself, and I'm always pressing my team. If everyone in our church was just like me, what kind of church would my church be?
Yeah, that's good.
Not if everyone else was as gifted as me. No, if everyone else was just like me, treated their wife just like me, treated the poor just like me, raised their children just like me, what kind of church would our church be? And I feel like we should always be pointing people to Jesus because we aren't him. But we hadn't stepped into kingdom leadership until you can say, when the benediction is given, follow me.
Yeah.
Just one thing on Sunday to say, listen to me.
Yeah.
It's another thing on Monday to say, you can follow me. So I think it starts there.
So good. Well, let me ask you this, because we're seeing all kinds of stuff happen in leaders, good, bad, and ugly, and positive. You're seeing certain leaders really thrive. I think one of the things that is not talked about often is how do leaders stay refreshed? Besides, of course, like spiritual leadership, we're going to read our Bible, we're going to pray, go to church. But what are some of the practical things that you do, Dharius, to just stay refreshed and mentally and emotionally and physically well?
Yeah, I think for me, it starts with an attitude. I think everything starts with perspective. Like how you see a thing determines what you do. And so for me, I struggled with this for a while. I think, I'm not even going to say early on, but a significant part of my ministry, I would say something like rest is refreshing for me, right? And so I would feel guilty at times for resting too much or resting too long. I felt that a servant leadership model required sacrifice. I felt like I needed to be there as much as I could for everybody. But one of the things I realized is that there's a difference between selfishness and stewardship. And that what I'm called to be is a steward over the life that God has given me. It's a life he has chosen to use to serve and lead his people. And as a result of that, it's important for me to be a good steward of, take care of God's instrument. So I don't know I can't do music. I don't know if you do music, but everybody around me does music but me. I believe God wants to give me that gift or something. Come but on. Anyway,
pray for
it, right? In Jesus' name.
Piano guy,
oh, so, you would? I would be so arrogant. I would have such a pride problem. But anyway, man, you take care of your guitar.
Yeah.
Because that's your instrument. Well, we are God's guitar.
Yeah.
And it's important for us to take care of that. And so once I saw that, Paul, two things I saw needed. Three things. I needed rest disciplines, just like physically and mentally recover. I also needed replenishing disciplines. What are the things that refill me? Not just rest, but like replenish me and refill me spiritually and emotionally.
Yeah.
Not just, like you said, prayer, but what fills me back up.
Yeah.
And then the third thing is recreational disciplines. What things bring me joy? What things allow me, as Solomon said, to enjoy the fruit of my labor?
Yeah.
And to enjoy, to experience not just joy in God, but joy from God by enjoying his creation and his people. So for me, that's like, I like hanging with friends. I like playing video games. That's spiritual to me.
Yeah.
Basketball.
What's your favorite video game?
I'm 2K. Basketball, 2K. I got a Nintendo Switch in my hotel room right now with 2K on it. I'm serious. Yeah, so.
And then you like playing basketball with friends too.
Yeah. Now, I don't like playing basketball with people who still got hoop dreams because I don't have hoop dreams anymore. You know,
you just they're that fun.
You got the guy at the court. He's got the whole outfit on.
Shouting,
you like 44. Like, bro, you're 44. It's over. It's not happening.
Yeah.
You need grief. You need the heart healer. You need grief recovery. You got to let that go. Yeah, so things like that are important. In terms of like replenishment disciplines, for example, you and I, we run in some of the same circles. So whether it's round tables with Pastor Chris, that's always refreshing and replenishing to me. That's important. And then rest, like times where we get a chance to do nothing.
Yeah.
So those are the things for me that I feel like are really important.
Come on. So if you and your wife are going to go somewhere, what's that place? Where do you like to go? Florida, California, New York?
It's California, man.
Come on.
It's California. You get the mountains, the
There
palm
you go.
trees, and the water.
It's so beautiful.
It is.
We love California.
The only thing is the devil is always on the freeway. The traffic is demonic.
Yeah, it does. It does get
Oh,
crazy.
man, it gets
I'm sure in
crazy.
Jersey it gets pretty intense too.
Well, where we are, not so much,
Okay.
but the closer you get to New York, the
does.
worse it is.
Okay.
So I feel like God is not in that part of New Jersey. God in the part of New Jersey where there's no traffic. I want to be where the Lord is.
Oh, man, we are so honored you're here, that you're back at Victory, and I know it's going to be powerful. So if you're watching right now, make sure that you stay tuned. We're going to have the sermons from the whole conference uploaded on YouTube later. So if you're watching this years from now or months from now, you could catch his sermon from 2019 Victory Conference on our YouTube channel. Again, thanks so much for listening. God bless you.